I'll tell you something seriously funny and kind of stupid. I've done coffee enemas ever since I went to the Gerson Clinic out in San Diego years ago. They put me on their board and said, "Come out for a week and do this." And I really like coffee enemas, and I would do them every day for a while. And the day when I said, "Oh, I don't want to do one," I would get a headache. I was getting a withdrawal headache from coffee enemas. Can you just believe it? Wow. It's not absorbed, blah, blah, blah. But man, it's absorbed. I was getting withdrawal headache. So I'm not doing too many coffee enemas anymore.
Well, I like to drink it orally too, so.
I never did that.
Welcome to Vitality Made Simple. The following production is for educational and entertainment purposes only. If you need medical advice, call your doctor. Now, let's go to Vitality Made Simple.
Would you like to hear from the world expert in magnesium and many other topics? Well, you're in for a great treat today. I have Dr. Carolyn Dean. Welcome, Dr. Dean.
Thank you, Dr. Debbie. May I call you Debbie?
You just call me Debbie, and welcome, folks, to Vitality Made Simple. This is the podcast that equips you to feel better, look better, and to enjoy better relationships. And Carolyn sent me some little hearts. Send everybody some hearts. Look at this. Oh, here they come. Here they come. It's wonderful. So if you're on audio, you're going to have to watch video too, because it's pretty darn cool. Well, Carolyn, she's one of my friends. We've known. I feel like I've known her forever. I've told her this hilarious story. My mother-in-law was a caricature. Her name was Mary Osmond. Mama Mary, we called her. And she was watching a show called Dr. Becker, and she would just talk about Carolyn said this, and Carolyn said this, and Carolyn said this. And we were like, who's Carolyn? We thought she had a new friend at first. We didn't realize she was watching Dr. Becker. But it was Carolyn Dean. And this is literally, would that be 30 years ago, Carolyn?
Oh, yeah, I think so. 30 years ago, I would be traveling around, going to Texas, doing shows. Those were the days.
Oh, fun days. And our big joke in our family, even everybody was like, no matter what the question is, the answer is magnesium. Carolyn said so. So Carolyn wrote a book called Magnesium Miracle. And then that's the updated version she's showing you right there. I have that too. It really is the missing link for vitality. And Carolyn has dug deep into that. Lots of people are singing her song now, but I think she wrote the song. So today we're going to talk about cancer. You all know that my clinical practice is limited to physician referrals, and I'm seeing lots and lots of sick people and lots of cancer, and it's on the rise. So anything we can do to help people avoid it, we want to do, right, Dr. Dean? And anything we can do to help people get over it, we want to do. So tell us everything about magnesium and minerals and just the development of these horrible cancers that people are experiencing.
Right. Well, nutrients come into play because we want our cells to be healthy and happy. And I think we do get into trouble with abnormal cell growth when the body thinks that, when parts of the body thinks that, you're starting to die anyway because you're so toxic. Your cell membranes are coated with, omega-6 fatty acids instead of omega-3s. You're eating so much sugar. So, it sounds bizarre, but the way the body works in priorities is it tries to keep the organs alive and functioning, but on the outside of your organs, things may be very toxic. So I think that's where the toxicity factor comes into play in cancer. The sugar factor is, for forever, we've known that sugar will help grow cancer cells. But then there's the allopathic medicine that says, cancer is really horrible and dangerous, and we have to kill it. And in killing those cancer cells, they kill a lot of surrounding tissue. So cancer has always been complex and hard to figure out. I started to get a bead on cancer, well, over 20 years ago now, when I started studying total biology and German new medicine. And we'll talk mostly about German new medicine because there are lots of resources that people can go to. I mainly refer to Mr. Danny Carroll. I don't know if you've heard of him, but
No, I haven't.
his website is Danny-Carroll, CARROLL.com. And on that site, he offers a 400-page book about I think it's called The Psychic Roots of Disease by, what is the name of the person? I don't know if I can come up with it right now, but he offers this free ebook, or I don't think it's even on Kindle. So you download a PDF of this book and you look up hundreds of different conditions and find out what is the conflict behind this disease. And when I was studying the French version of German New Medicine called Total Biology. Same thing, conflict basis of disease. German New Medicine, it originated with a Dr. Gerd Hammer. He's a psychiatrist and an oncologist. His son was fatally wounded and died of a gunshot wound, and it was somebody in the royal family in Europe, so he couldn't fight there was no retribution. His son died, and several months after their son died, Gerd Hammer developed testicular cancer, and his wife developed ovarian cancer. And because of his two specialties, he said, this is not a coincidence. What's going on? What he did was looked at thousands of his patient files and found that every one of his cancer patients had an unresolvable conflict in their life before they were diagnosed. And what he said about the testicular and ovarian cancer is that the subconscious body-mind was trying to make another offspring. I mean, they were past the age and all the rest of it, but that's what the body did. And
Carolyn, is this sort of like when the body says no, like Dr. Gabor Mate? I mean, in other words, people who have unresolved anger, unforgiveness. I mean, is that similar?
It goes into the body. We say that German New Medicine is like Louise Hay on steroids. So where she would say, well, a headache or a pain in the neck can be you saying all the time, oh, my partner is such a pain in the neck. And they get a pain in the neck because it's almost like you're asking for the pain in the neck because you're saying it so much. But in German New Medicine, it's deeper and deeper because the stories about the subconscious reaction to stress, or, for example, with breast cancer, you can have a mother whose infant is in intensive care and could be dying, and because the brain just won't shut off, the worry, the fear, the body gets the message, I've got to fix this. So the brain will put a stimulus on the breast to create more breast milk ducts and create a swelling or growth in the breast. And that will be, to produce more nurturing breast milk for the infant. Again, it's not something that we say is a common sense reaction, but it's a subconscious reaction. And when the child is released from hospital and everything is fine, then the tumor starts to break down, or what you would say, these extra cells will break down. And then as they're breaking down, that's when the person goes to the doctor and says, oh, I have something here. And they say, no, you have cancer.
Well, that is so interesting. So, for example, I had a patient who was breastfeeding and felt a tumor or felt a lump. And of course, allopathic medicine rushed her in, started doing lots and lots of treatment. But what I'm hearing you say potentially is that the body might just heal. You get past whatever potential stress is there, trauma is there,
Yeah.
and you give it more time to heal. Is that right?
That's right. One of my teachers, Gilbert Reynaud, he's in Vancouver, British Columbia. He said that he had, at that time, 20 years ago, he had 20 breast cancer patients. And when he was able to discuss the conflict with them, and it can just take a matter of bringing the conflict to the surface, discussing it, and kind of dispelling it, then he said most of them, the tumor did disappear. I don't know, it probably took some time, so that their next mammogram would show that it was gone. And he said, I think at that time, 2 patients said, well, I don't know, I think I'll go ahead with the biopsy. And when they biopsied, they did not find a cancerous tissue. And this is very difficult, though, in our allopathic world, where people are so mesmerized by cancer is horrible. Nobody knows how to treat it. We have to hammer it with everything. And allopathic medicine will never bring in the psychology or the conflict. Never. So it's up to us to study these aspects of health and disease. And for me, when I studied German New Medicine, total biology, I lost my fear of cancer. I just don't create conflict. If there's something going on, I'll voice it. I'll yell at the top of my lungs to not keep it in my body. So that's what we have to tell our friends and family and our patients and clients, that they have to get this conflict out in the open.
It reminds me of just so many instances in my practice over 40 years. Early in my practice, I had a woman who was happy as can be, healthy as can be. And then she comes in and her whole demeanor was different. She just looked sick. And she's like, Dr. Debbie, I've been diagnosed with breast cancer. And I said, well, what else is going on? I mean, you've been feeling great. And she said, well, I found out my husband is leaving me for somebody else. And I remember, Carolyn, thinking, wow, could those be related? That's just the biggest heartache that any woman could ever imagine. And sure enough, she died very quickly. And in my mind, I thought, well, she died of a broken heart is really sort of.
Right. Yes, and the way it's described in the book, the free book that people can get at danny-carroll.com. It's amazing because they'll talk about a right-handed woman. I think you'll get, maybe the breast cancer, if it's the partner or the spouse that's causing the conflict, will be in the right breast, and in a right-handed woman, the left breast will be family and children, and not the spouse. So it's very precise. And Dr. Hammer even got to the point of doing MRIs of the brain, non-contrast MRIs, and finding these little, what we used to think were just artifacts, I think they used to call them, in brain scans. And these artifacts, he showed how they corresponded to, the breast and the liver. That's got to do with severe, I guess might be betrayal. And the pancreas has to do with inheritance, and on and on and on. The brain cancers can be where the person's brain, you're trying to keep up with your father or an associate or somebody, you're pushing your brain. So you start developing extra brain cells. So that is very important. Also important is keeping our body healthy, because I think someone can have a conflict and maybe it doesn't dramatically affect them as much because they feel healthy and they're taking care of themselves and they have a positive attitude. Because you remember Dr. Candace Kurt's work on the endocrine receptors and the opioid receptor sites. She did this whole thing about the biology of emotion, and she was looking for receptor sites and realized our thoughts and feelings and our demeanor can actually affect the receptors and allow more dopamine or serotonin. And I know that myself in my, I have a farm here and I volunteer at the farmer's market and the farm store. And, I'll just be beaning away and people will literally come up to me and ask for a hug because they just want to get happy. So if you come across a conflict, you're going to be sad like your patient of 30 years ago. And that is going to shut down your receptor for your neurotransmitter that are supposed to give you happiness and joy, dopamine and serotonin. And look what we did to ourselves over the COVID year, where we shut off social interaction. That was killing people. That no body contact. The studies with they did it with babies before they had laws against it, but with monkeys, they would keep them in isolation. They would never be cucks, and they would just go into depression and die. So there's the emotional component, there's the conflict, there's the physical. If you're eating a lot of poisons and toxins, then your body is not going to divest itself of predators, which can be the viruses and all the rest of it. One of my products turned into a project because I have germinated barley seed that gets squished in this huge 10-foot wide drums. So we've got 400 pounds of barley seeds going around in these drums, and a liquid forms. We squish out the liquid. So what's left is barley straw. We use that as a fertilizer. So here on my farm, I did a radish experiment. In one plot, I put the barley straw as a fertilizer, and the other plot, nothing. And after the 25 days of radish growth, huge, beautiful, bright red radishes in the barley plot. And the other, it was all weeds and worms, and the radishes had all kinds of crevices in them from the worms. We got 85 pounds of saleable radishes we could sell at the store. In the non-barley plot, 3 pounds, 85 and 3. And what I realized is that the barley straw was a prebiotic, probiotic, and it fed not just nutrients, but also a life force to the radishes. So that predators they'll say, okay, that it's not weak enough for me to attack and we. And that's what we have to look for. Things that give us life force. And I can't tell how many YouTubes I've been looking at where someone's talking about the mitochondria or any sort of disease. What do they all say now? Well, we have to get the right steam. We have to get exercise. We have to eat right. We have to have good thoughts and social interaction. And then, they do talk a bit about supplements, but, supplements have started to be so difficult to sort out because the big pharma had bought up a lot of the small supplement company. They've made most of our vitamins synthetic. They say with the mineral compounds, and as you know, my minerals, somehow I have the genius chemists who make stabilized ions of minerals, which is what the Extels want, so as you can get the right supplement, food-based organic vitamins, the methylated D vitamin, B3 made from algae instead of contaminated fish oil, along with K2 and just basic. If you can convince someone to take the basic and take enough of them at the, good, well absorbed, as you can get them to take enough magnesium to start with, then you've got a healthy body. I mean, I'm telling everybody on my podcast that at 76 right now, I feel better than I did at 30. I can't even believe I'm 76. And you've been in practice for 40 years and you look like a kid. So that's the type of energy that we want and that will repel predators. But if you allow a conflict in, and I'm no psychologist, I'm just a common sense person. But it's obvious if you allow conflict in and your whole demeanor droops, then you are not in charge of your neurotransmitters to keep yourself happy and, filled with dopamine, serotonin.
Well, and when you just think about just a fear response, for some people they suddenly get, diarrhea, or the people who live in constant chronic fear, they're constipated, or people, break out in a sweat. I mean, there's a physiological response that absolutely follows a psychological event. I mean, we just see it so many times. It reminds me, Carolyn, of I've thought so often about, in the Bible when Jesus was healing the lame man and he said, "Your sins are forgiven. Oh, now get up and walk." And I've often thought, well, maybe this guy felt guilty about something. There was something in his psychological health or lack of that Jesus addressed first. You know what I'm saying? I think that is there for us. To see that we can't overlook our thoughts and things we're holding inside. I think this Germany medicine is really fascinating.
Mhm.
And also, I think a big part of your youthfulness, hopefully my youthfulness, is living with a passion. You're getting up every day and you're going down the beach collecting smiles, and you're going to your farm to work, and you're going to sell, good, delicious food to people. Well, there's something about that, Carolyn, that reason, that spark for living, that living your purpose, that I think is so big that I've seen in my practice, but it's hard to quantify.
Right, the purpose, the goal. And there have been a lot of studies, and a lot of these studies are kind of silly, but there'll be studies that show that people have a long-term goal. They do better than people who, or what am I going to do tomorrow? What's the point? Why should I get up? Or people that in a sort of, they're dying and they're in some sort of terminal stage, but they did a wedding that they want to live for, or the new grandbaby. So we can move mountain if we have a goal, if we have something to live for. But we're living in a society now where people are kept alive too long with too many drugs and with tube sticking in every orifice and all the rest of it. So, we know all that, and we have to fight it. There are enough YouTubers now talking about we can live to 120, and I believe that. I mean, just go to the Bible and see how long people were living back then. And the prayer and the absolution, is that what you say? Where someone will say, your sins are forgiven, then that can release the conflict and allow a person to live again. So that's where Christianity is so important for people who feel burdened, and then that's lifted. That is something almost physical that people don't recognize. And there are people who live with, I guess some people say, the Holy Spirit. I bumped into two people here in Mali, and they're both South Pacific Islander women, big, robust women, and you look at them and they're just they may not even be smiling, but you go near them and they just radiate. And I just go right up to them and I'd say, "You've got something special," and they will talk about reasons that I won't. They won't take. They won't even take any credit for it being them. They're passing it through. But you hug these women, and I'm feeling it right now. The tingling that you can receive. So there are people when you see, hear, feel, and hear that kind of thing, it keeps you going, "Oh, well, that's what I want to be like." And that's my gathering smile, but now gathering hugs. It's very important because it lets people know how, the importance of that kind of feeling. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's body, soul, and spirit. Carolyn, I think it's so big. And, um, I see my body as the temple of the Holy Spirit, and that makes me want to take better care of it. So, but it's connecting all those dots. I think so many Christians don't even think about their physical health. They, like pray for me and pass the donuts is what I always say. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think a lot of people they don't put it all together, but you know, it's so important to tie it together to think about emotional health. I think a lot of women in our age group, especially, it's like bear your emotions, just keep going. But no, we are designed with those emotions, and that's what you're learning about in German New Medicine. It really is super interesting.
Right. And it's interesting you bring up the topic of cancer, because I usually don't talk about it because I I have a license. My license is in California, my medical license. I don't practice there. I keep it going every 2 years. I have to do my CME credit, and I keep up with the horror that is modern medicine. But in California, back in the day, they used to take the licenses away from doctor to treat a cancer with anything but drugs and surgery. And that probably still exists to a certain extent, where allopathic medicine steers the alternatives. I mean, look what they did with ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine and or candendazole. And I think there is a surge of cancer. There's also a surge of interest. I think what happened with that genetically engineered COVID virus, which emphasized spike protein, and then the jab that emphasized spike protein, I think all of us have spike protein from the shedding of people with COVID. I got COVID a few times, and the people who took the jab, the spike protein goes to every cell in the body and tries to weaken it because it multiplied in the cells. So what I'm saying to people is, if you can take some perfected dietary supplements to build healthy cells, as the spike protein cells go through its life cycle and dies and then is excreted, your newer healthy cells won't allow spike protein in, and you'll get your health back. We have reports of that. People's spike protein level disappearing. So I can't say that I have any sort of treatment for it that should come then help me, that a body, we can grow new whole body, including brain cells, in 7 years. So it's not going to take that long to be healthy, but we can heal our bodies and return it to the blueprint and map that we were born with, a God-given blueprint.
Mm-hmm. Well, and in your magnesium book, you talk about how sugar depletes magnesium. So when for our listeners, I think that's just a key point to know, since magnesium's absolutely essential for every single cell in the body for growth, for repair, for, resilient, then it's important to know that sugar impacts that. An interesting thing happened clinically, Carolyn. A young woman came in who had been diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And he said, we talk about everything. And she said, well, I have a question. I was sent to a dietitian by my oncologist. She goes to an excellent oncologist. She said, I was sent to a dietitian, and the dietitian told me that it's a myth that sugar impacts cancer. And she said, what do you think? And I said, Toro caca, Toro caca, Toro caca, except I, spoke English. And I said, I can't think of another word to emphasize this. It's so big. And so then we talk about, what is a PET scan? A PET scan is a form of sugar, because it just takes that signal straight to the cancer cell. So I think, people just have to know that, not that you may never have a bite of sugar, but, it's in our world, it's just everywhere. And to know that additionally, it's depleting such an essential mineral as magnesium,
Right.
then it's
Well,
so big.
I think in my sugar book, I really delved into this deeply. What's happening with sugar, and you'll love this, is a glucose blood sugar molecule looks very much like an ascorbic acid molecule. And the two of them fight for transport into the cell on insulin. What do you see happening there? When you're eating a lot of sugar, at any one point in time, you have 1 to 2 teaspoons of sugar in your whole body. You drink a can of soda with 10 teaspoons of sugar, overwhelm. And so all that sugar is attaching to the insulin, bumping off vitamin D, which is a necessary antioxidant in your cells to help with the oxidative stress, the waste material. You need your antioxidant. You're not getting any vitamin C into your cells when you eat a lot of sugar. When we used to have parties with the foster kids back in the day, we'd have a sugar table, and then we'd have a smaller table with vitamin C. They had to take the antidote. So I'll bring in the COVID years again, because during the COVID years, we got so, down and depressed and everything as a society. We went for sugar. The 15 pounds of COVID weight that people put on. Sugar is huge. Everything about the dessert, and I love it too. I went through years of trying to avoid sugar. Well, I did avoid sugar, wheat, and dairy for 10 years because of my yeast overgrowth. And it's just impossible. I never got rid of it until I made my own formula with Saccharomyces boulardii, which is a very gentle antifungal and probiotic. Humic fulvic, which is green probiotic, has a lot of minerals. What else? I put in some of my barley straw, or not the straw itself, but the barley liquor as one of my products. I dehydrated it into a powder and put it in. And that, along with a picometer silver, stabilized ion of silver, you can settle down your yeast so that you don't concern yourself with eating the wonderful bits of fruit and a dessert here and there. And you can't ask your patients to be that strict. I tried myself, and I can't do that. So there's ways of dealing with sugar. But just think of that, how sugar and ascorbic acid compete for insulin transport. And then what we know about sugar in the human bodies, about ascorbic acid in the human bodies, we don't make our own ascorbic acid. Every other mammal, except maybe guinea pigs, make the ascorbic acid. So here, you'll love this story. Here's what I say happened. In the Garden of Eden, when Eve ate the apple and she defied God, don't eat it, don't eat it. Yeah, this, I mean, that's the story. Anyway. So then God said, okay, then you can eat fruit all your life, but I'm taking away the enzyme to make your own ascorbic acid.
To combat it, you're saying.
So good.
I was part of the punishment for humankind.
A punishment. Yeah, we did it. So we've got a situation where we need that vitamin C to keep our cells healthy and to prevent cancer, to prevent heart disease. Then I go to my story about Linus Pauling. He was working with high-dose vitamin C. He knew that we weren't making it, and we need 8 to 10 grams of vitamin C ascorbic acid. And they decided to suppress his information about heart disease and just say, oh yeah, vitamin C is good for the common cold. But he was working constantly on figuring out how much vitamin C ascorbic acid for heart disease and for the lipids too. He added lysine, and then Matthias Rast came along and added choline. And this is, I am putting that combination together because there's so much not a heart attacks. And there are heart attacks, but there's so much attack that had gone onto the heart from spike protein.
Right.
And I had my history of heart palpitations. I got rid of them with magnesium, but I'm doing high dose vitamin C, proline, and lichen because vitamin C is necessary to make collagen that keeps our blood vessels, our arteries, everything healthy, cartilage, everything. If your blood vessel doesn't have enough collagen, it'll, have a little weakened area. It can have a little split. That split then is bandaged by cholesterol. And the longer cholesterol stays there, and if you don't have enough magnesium to keep calcium under control, calcium will deposit in that cholesterol, and there's your atherosclerosis, and the atheroma plaque or whatever that can break off and plug a heart artery or plug a brain artery. So there's the importance of keeping your sugar low, taking your vitamin C, ascorbic acid. Now, I went through years of thinking, well, ascorbic acid, they're making that out of coal tar. It's not natural. And I just said you have to use food-based vitamin C because food-based vitamin C has tyrosine, it has bioflavin, a lot going on for it when you get vitamin C from a food source. But once I started to look at Linus Pauling, and I actually interviewed a number of vitamin C doctors on my podcast a few years ago around the COVID day, and they use IV vitamin C to such a miraculous extent. They will take people who are dying and put up the IV's ascorbic acid drip, and they will bring people back to life. So the body needs ascorbic acid. And the chemical structure of the ascorbic acid that other mammals make is ascorbic acid. So there's the information that I think is meaningful for people with heart disease and to prevent cancer.
Well, yes, and it's all connected. Carolyn, you're going to love this. I got to have my picture made with Linus Pauling back in 1978. He came to Oklahoma to,
University of Central Oklahoma, which was called Central State then, the college I went to. And I saw that he was going to be there and went and sat on the front row. I got there really early to meet Linus Pauling. And was just a really sweet man. And he, talked about all of his studies, just totally dedicated to helping people feel good with the simplicity of vitamin C. And that has just been huge, I think, in our health journey and many of my patients. There are lots of good folks in Oklahoma City who do IV vitamin C, and we've just seen absolute miracles. And for our listeners, if you take vitamin C and it goes to the gut, you can only take enough for what's called bowel tolerance before you get diarrhea. But if you have an IV, then that does not go through the gastrointestinal tract. So you can have, 50 grams instead of 5 grams. And so it's very healing.
But what I say to people is say you've got someone on 20, if you use 25 grams orally, that's 25,000 milligrams. That taken daily can be equivalent to an IV of 50 or 100. There's something about the oral absorption.
It's the liposomal form, like
liposomal.
But a liposomal form, you can take a lot more.
Yeah,
that.
But what I get people to do is put it in a liquid and just dip it through the day.
Mm-hmm.
Because
not all at once.
Yeah, and we have that problem with magnesium with people, and I just tell them, dose yourself throughout the day. Don't take it all at once; you'll overload. So the vitamin C, you can get away from the bowel effect, and yet we have people who say, "Oh, about bowel tolerance. Oh, I can't take any more." Oh, no, take it slowly. I'll even have people take their magnesium or their vitamin C with psyllium seed powder, and the psyllium is perfect, like a gel, as you know. But then it'll drag the vitamin C or the magnesium through all the intestines, and it just keeps absorbing.
Well, and here's my magnesium. I talk about this on Instagram. I use your Remite. I use some protein powder, Symbolics, that has the 8 essential amino acids, and plus L-arginine. And then I use Baja Gold, naturally harvested sea salt. I know you and I have talked about the different kinds of salt. The pink salt is actually iron oxide, so I don't need that for myself. So I use the Baja Gold, and it has 90 different micronutrients. So I sip on Carolyn's magnesium all day long. I love it. It tastes great. And so I get a lot of my patients doing that, Carolyn, because people are tired of taking pills. So this is a liquid for our listeners that is really
makes them drink more water, Debbie.
Uh-huh.
It does. Well, they don't want to. No, I don't want to drink water. But if you have the minerals, what happens is the minerals go into the cells and they put water after them. So you're not running to the bathroom. Your water is going to your cells and doing what it's supposed to do. Because what did they tell poor people with some blood pressure, with high blood pressure? Oh, don't drink so much water and take a diuretic. All these things that make you more dehydrated. And dehydration, that's the road to the blood clots and feeling fatigued and your body not metabolizing in the cell. You were talking about magnesium and the importance, and the reason it's so important is it's responsible for 80% of known metabolic function. So that's why I call it the gateway drug.
It's the gateway drug. Well, Mama Mary, whatever the question was, the answer was magnesium. I mean, it was so good. And she was so right. She would always give a lot of unsolicited advice, but she thought if she started it with, well, darling, are you aware? She could just tell a stranger anything. But a lot of times she was quoting you, and she was really helping people because that was so baseline.
Yeah, she would really love Remag, and she'd love this book too, because I ended up finding, at least about 68 different medical conditions that really could be magnesium deficiency.
It's the place to start, definitely.
Yeah, it's a place to start, and people feel better. I just had the conversation at the farmer's market yesterday with someone whose husband had 30 years of headaches, and it was after he got hit in the head with a baseball, and they never figured it out or treated whatever. So by the time now he's in his late 50s, they're running all the tests. You could have no. He got hit in the head with a baseball, and he's got scarring in there, and it's never been treated. And what did she tell me yesterday? That even through all his testing and everything, we encouraged him to take my magnesium, and his headaches are gone. 30 years.
That is wonderful.
Right.
Can you imagine how he wakes up just thanking God for magnesium? I mean, wow, headaches. I mean, there's, I'm not a headache person, but the people that are, I feel so sorry for them, that just have to live with that chronic pain.
I'll tell you something seriously funny and kind of stupid. I've done coffee enemas ever since I went to the Gerson Clinic out in San Diego years ago. They put me on their board and said, come out for a week and do this. And I really like coffee enemas. And I would do them every day for a while. And the day when I said, I don't want to do one, I would get a headache. I was getting a withdrawal headache from coffee enemas. Can you believe it? Wow. It's not absorbed, blah, blah, blah. But man, it's absorbed. I was getting withdrawal headache. So I'm not doing too many coffee enemas anymore.
Well, I like to drink it orally too. So
I never did that. Never.
You really haven't? Oh my gosh. We have a percolator and big old. It's just it's ready to plug in and put a little bit of organic ghee in it. And it's just, you might get started drinking it from the other end if you try it that way, Carolyn. Especially that coffee in Hawaii. It's so good.
Well, my thing is I'm too impatient to wait for it to cool down. That is it. I remember, all the camps I went to when I was a kid, brownies, Girl Guides, everything, Rangers. We would have chocolate milk at night, hot chocolate. And I would take it and burn my tongue and ruin my whole week. So when my dear mom was dying, she was dying of acute leukemia because my other doctor sister told her to take a statin and a high blood pressure drug. But anyway, we won't go there. So each of her 4 daughters, we were spending time with her, keeping her at home. And she said, oh, why didn't you have a cup of tea with me, dear? And I said, no, it burns my tongue. I mean, I've said that for like 60 years. And she said, well, dear, all you have to do is put an ice cube or 2 in it. I said, you waited till your dying day to tell us that?
That's funny.
Yeah, she had a great sense of humor.
Oh, that is hilarious. Oh my gosh. Well, there's just, I love these natural remedies too. I mean, so many things we've talked about, people can start doing today. And I think that's the key. Even to our earlier conversation, Carolyn, with trying to pull up any buried feelings or in unforgiveness or just anything that needs to come out and get healed so that the body can heal.
Right. Yeah. Speak your mind. I was just thinking when, what I said to my mom, some people say, oh, you didn't say that, did you? No, you should be able to bring these things up and kind of joke about them. Life is a bowl of cherries and you have to treat it that way. Now, was there, when you said you wanted to talk about cancer, I wonder, are there other things that we should look at or discuss? I mean, what I would say to someone is, get your test done and all, but now we're hearing about mammograms, how the horrible squishing of the breast can spread, or the biopsy can spread. I wonder, what do you think of all this testing that could actually be problematic?
I really think, well, for me, I can only tell people what I do now, but I don't get mammograms anymore. I got a lot of them early until I probably turned 50, but now I do a thermogram and an ultrasound. So that's out of pocket. It's really funny now that I'm 66. I had my Medicare physical, and the doctor is somebody that my younger brother's friends with, and so he's like, I want you to get a mammogram. And I said, no. And I said, I'll pay for a thermogram and an ultrasound, but I'm not going to get a mammogram. I think they're not as accurate, actually, from everything I've read. And then he said, I want you to get a colonoscopy. And I said, no, I'll do a GI map on myself, and I'll do what's the other test? It's just a stool test. A Cologuard. I'll do a Cologuard. And he said, work with me, Debbie, work with me. I'm not going to get paid if you don't comply. And I said, well, you might need to fire me. It's okay. We can still be friends. But, I mean, everybody has to decide for themselves. And I think that's, the great hope that people will investigate and read the research, read the inserts of things, read the side effects. My own dear father got a colonoscopy and got nicked, and it changed his whole life. He developed polymyalgia rheumatica immediately, and autoimmune problems. And so, and I know colonoscopies do a lot of good. I'm not saying they don't. But for me, for my decision, it was different. So I think it's be informed. I would never tell anybody not to do anything, but there are a lot of options.
So I expected by now thermography would be bigger, but the mammogram is the standard, so they're not going to get rid of their mammography machines. I've never had a mammogram. I just had one thermogram, and that's awesome. That's enough.
That's enough. That's enough. Your body's designed to heal. I make my patients stand in front of the mirror and say, my body's designed to heal. I am not my disease. I'm not accepting that curse on myself. I'm designed in the image of God, and I can heal. I just need to figure out what to do. But it's really funny talking about thermograms, Carolyn. I saw a patient that had an infected root canal, and a breast tumor, and it was on the thermogram is lit up like a Christmas tree from the root canal down the lymph node exactly to the breast tumor. And that's the only thermogram I've seen, but I see that situation a whole lot because of the meridians of the body, the connections. So it's all connected, and I appreciate how you're connecting everything. So when is your new book coming out?
Well, the first one, Sugar Toxicity, A Clinical Perspective, is on Kindle right now.
It is. What about paper? I love books. I love hard copies. Is there going to be a hard copy?
I'll have to check. I keep meaning to find out from my team that, there's a print on demand. Like, this is a print on demand. I'm publishing all my own books now because, just because.
Yeah, because you can. Why not? Yeah.
But the Kindle PDF version is only 99 cents.
Wow.
I know.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You worked hard on that.
At this point, I've written so much, it's almost like a cut and paste and a new idea. Oh, type that in. It's really amazing how the internet, the computers, everything have made it for us. We can get this information out there.
Yeah. And to wind things down, that's really our message, because people can do their own research. They can follow people like you on Instagram and on your website, in your classes, and they can learn so much. They can find out how to keep these earthly vessels healthy. And I so admire that you're learning new things. For our listeners, Dr. Dean is actually an MD as well as a naturopath. So she's coming from from the aspect of truly integrative medicine. And that is fantastic.
Here is the newest thing. I was asked by kind of a MAHA, Make America Healthy Again offshoot, to come to Arizona and speak at a fundraiser for a charity called the Vital Choice Project. A young man, 22 years old, who'd been beaten up by the medical system for his whole life, he decided that he wanted to create a educational forum for pre-med students. And the people around him knew me and invited me over. And so my charity went. I have a charity, parageniusfoundation.org. And so my charity and his charity, we're bonding together to teach pre-med students. And it turns out that one of the universities where there's an existing chapter of his Vital Choice Project is 30 minutes away from my warehouse in North Carolina. So it's like, okay, someone put that together. And
That is wonderful.
one of the other charities involved was Mike Tyson's. Mike Tyson is doing some inner city work. His son is running the charity, so I met Mike Tyson. So it was really cool. But doesn't that make sense to teach pre-med students, like when they're in their undergrad, which isn't as onerous as med school, they learn the stuff that we know. And when they go into medicine, they're not deterred. They know, oh, there are other choices. Okay, don't worry. But I would tell most young people these days, don't even bother to go to med school. I'm the adjunct professor of an online naturopathic college that's accredited. It's called knowyourwellness.com.
And knowyourwellness.com. Wow.
And you can get an accredited naturopathic degree it's like $3,500. You do it online and you learn. I have my magnesium module there and my yeast overgrowth module and a module about my formulas. So it's happening.
Wow. That is, I've got to be careful not to sign up because, I have fear of missing out on something that I might help somebody with. So, gosh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming today. I appreciate it all the way from Maui and Maui to Oklahoma. That's pretty awesome. And it's your morning and we're winding down here. I guess it's about noon at your place, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and thank you, listeners, for joining us just for a fun conversation. If you would like to see Carolyn's products, I actually am an affiliate because I use her products. And so there's a link on my website. It's called rnareset.com, just a simple link on the website. Good stuff. And thank you. Share this with anybody that it might help. We're now in 145 countries and 6,500 cities because you're sharing. Join me on Instagram. Join Dr. Dean on Instagram. We're going to keep bringing you good things that will help you feel better, look better, and enjoy better relationships. Blessings until next time.
Thanks for joining us on Vitality Made Simple podcast. Be sure to visit drdebbieosment.com for our courses and resources designed to help you feel better, look better, and enjoy better relationships. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for joining us.